Earl Ellis Green, the man that killed a Riverside police officer, found and arrested. Matter of fact, he'd been arrested 13 times. So why was he out? And could this murder have been prevented? Smoking kills, we know that. But now you have no excuse. Wait till you see the pictures the FDA wants to start putting on cigarette packs. If you smoke, you may never smoke again. Plus, it's time for the holidays. We'll tell you what gadgets are guaranteed to fly off the shelves. All the stories people are talking about and everything you need to know right now on The Filter. Hello again. Off the top, The Filter forefront. Our top four of the day, including why do people hate us? But we'll begin with this. 44-year-old Earl Green is the man Riverside police believe shot and killed Officer Ryan Bonamino on Sunday night. Bonamino pulled over the big rig truck Green was driving. Green ran into the park. The officer chased him, and it is believed that Green was able to disarm the officer and shoot him with his own gun. First glimpse of Green came from the camera in Bonamino's car on Sunday night when he was climbing back into that big rig truck. That gave police an idea of what he looked like. A found fingerprint confirmed it. Last night, police and FBI arrested Green in the parking lot of a Target store in Riverside. Green is a career criminal. His criminal history dates back to 1990. He served jail time for vehicle theft, receiving stolen property, and battery on a police officer. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison in 2007 for vandalism. He was out on parole. In total, he had been arrested 13 times. Here's Officer Bonamino's father today.
I don't care what he looks like. I don't care who he is. I just want justice for my son.
And I think everybody would agree with that. Our contributors tonight from redcounty.com, Megan Barth, and the editor of Turner's Two Cents, Cameron Turner. Our pictures are furnished by Skype. Cameron, I'm going to start with you. Earl Green was on parole and assigned to the next to lowest level or parole or supervision. The reason, money. Does that work for you?
Well, before we get into that, I just want to say, as the son of a retired LAPD lieutenant, I certainly identify with the family of the slain officer and would certainly like to take a moment to pay tribute to Officer Bonamino's heroism and to offer my meager but certainly sincere condolences to his family. With respect to Earl Green and why he was out, my understanding, and as you mentioned in the intro, he was convicted in 2007 for felony vandalism. That was in connection with a domestic violence call, but he was not convicted of domestic violence, if I'm correct.
Correct.
So he went to jail for a nonviolent offense, which certainly seems that he was correctly classified as a low-level nonviolent offender. So his parole, as disturbing as this case is, his parole certainly seems appropriate.
But, Cameron, don't we take into account what he has done in the past? I mean, the guy has made a career out of crime.
Well, you listed out the statistics there, and once again, we've got a lot of crime. 13 arrests. There weren't 13 convictions, I don't think. But it doesn't sound like that's a real violent history. There's nothing in his history that I think would have presaged what
he presents
he's doing
nothing,
here.
Cameron. He presents nothing positive to society. Nothing.
What in his record, though, Fred, is on the level or even remotely comparable to this heinous act with which he is now accused?
Cameron. Once, twice, 3 times. It doesn't matter. The guy's a criminal. The guy is a criminal.
But it does matter, Fred, because there are categories of crime. We're talking about vandalism. We're talking about receiving stolen property. We don't have a history of violent crime here.
That makes him a model citizen? He received stolen property. Let's let him go. That's fine. It's not a big deal.
Fred, it's not about model citizenry. It's about how we classify people convicted of crimes and how we treat them. I will say again, this particular crime with which Earl Green is accused is inconsistent with his history. Receiving stolen property, even there was the one conviction,
battery on a police officer?
What is but Fred, as you know,
when can I interject?
The legal definition of battery covers a broad range. That I could push you on the shoulder, and that could be classified as battery. Well, I don't know the specifics of that case, so I don't know if it's comparable to this.
We are so far over here. Go ahead, Megan. Jump in here. Go ahead.
I have to interject. The vandalism charge that was brought against Green was in consequence of a domestic battery. And that's where the vandalism came in part. The problem is that the Department of Corrections, the California Department of Corrections, does not consider domestic battery a violent offense. So he could beat up his girlfriend, he could beat up his wife, he could bloody them, he could close to kill them, and it would not be a violent offense. This man has shown violent tendencies against a police officer with battery and against his domestic partner or his wife. I'm not sure if she was a girlfriend or not, but the fact is that if the Department of Corrections would have considered domestic battery a violent offense, he wouldn't have been paroled. The problem is that the CDCR does not consider domestic battery a violent offense, and I have to ask them, why not?
All right.
Well, I agree with that. Domestic battery is clearly a violent offense.
That's correct. So if he was categorized correctly by the Department of Corrections and not under that misdemeanor vandalism charge, we would not have a slain police officer.
Well,
right
and I'll tell you what, if we had put the guy away for everything he had done leading up to that, we wouldn't have had a slain police officer. We got to move on. If you like to smoke, it's going to get ugly. FDA unveiled 36 jarring labels today. By next June, 9 will be selected, and by the following October, they will be required on all U.S. sold cigarettes. I'm going to show you a few of the possibilities, and they are disturbing. Cigarettes are addictive. Cigarettes cause cancer. Tobacco smoke can harm your children. Smoking can kill you. If you want to see all the possibilities, you can go to our Filter Facebook page. It is not an uncommon practice around the world. In some countries, smokers actually put their cigarettes in cases to avoid the sight of the packaging. Do the new warnings and graphic images go too far, or do they go far enough, Megan?
Well, I used to visit Canada about 10 years ago, quite frankly, on business, and I also have some friends that live there, and they've been packaging cigarettes with these very graphic marketing labels for years, much longer than any other country has, and they've shown a steady decline over the past 10 years. Actually, the statistics show that smoking went from 35% of the population to 18% of the population. Now, I don't know if that can be directly attributed to these graphic images, or perhaps there's just more regulation of where you can smoke, when you can smoke, etc., like we're passing in the United States. But we're certainly behind the curve, I would say, behind Canada in how we label our cigarettes. So I'm not surprised by this. It is offensive. It's graphically offensive. But so is cigarette smoking to a majority of the Americans here. And perhaps these images will dissuade someone from buying a pack of cigarettes, or maybe it'll persuade someone to quit altogether.
What do you think, Cameron?
I think it's pointless. I think people who choose to smoke know that cigarette smoking is extremely dangerous to the point of being lethal. So I don't know that putting pictures like this is going to make any difference when people make choices. Some of the measures that Megan mentioned a while ago that have been imposed by municipalities and states to regulate smoking, along with the kind of aggressive education campaigns, I think those are the factors which really have made a difference in the decline in smoking here in California and in other places. I don't see that this makes any difference, and I think it's a waste of time and money.
Do you really? I mean, it has had success around the world.
Well, as we say, do we know that it is the labels that have caused people to stop smoking? People know smoking will kill them. People know it. They do it anyway.
But sometimes
they think it's cool.
Sometimes a graphic representation does not do the job of what someone hears or sees or listens to. Sometimes it takes a really visual, jarring image to get people to pay attention.
Well, those are certainly jarring images. All right. Now,
how
about the image of Los Angeles? You ever wonder what people from around the country think of us here in L.A.? According to Travel and Leisure magazine, not much. According to their latest survey, visitors find L.A. unfriendly and unintelligent. All right, so L.A. did look okay in the restaurant category. Luxury hotels and stylish people. Not so good in cleanliness, public transportation, and safety. Out of 35 cities, L.A. ranked 34th in friendliness, 32nd in intelligence. Actually, I do get the intelligence ranking, and I'm serious here. I've always believed that people, especially from the East Coast, think all we do out here is smoke dope and sit on the beach. And apparently, if that's true, they don't think we do it with a smile. Why do people have this perception of Los Angeles, Megan?
Well, I think it has to do with all the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. But I have to say, I'm in San Francisco right now, and I did stop someone on the street as I was walking back from my office to my hotel. And I just said, hey, what do you think about the people in Los Angeles? And the guy said, really? And I'm like, yeah, that's a true question. He goes, oh, you guys are a bunch of elitist snobs. And I am like, oh, my goodness. Well, also being from Chicago, I moved here 14 years ago, and it's a very different culture. It's very difficult to find people to get to know people because most people are in their cars. Most people hang out in their same little neighborhoods. And am I surprised that we're the 32nd in intelligence? No, I just look at last Tuesday's election.
Cameron, what do you think?
Well, I think the election in California, showed a great deal of intelligence. I don't know. The stereotypes that you mentioned, Fred, have existed about California as long as any of us can remember. Having grown up a native of this region, grew up in Altadena, Pasadena, lived in Monrovia, I have a whole other perspective. I don't relate to the sort of Hollywood side of this part of the world, although I've worked around the entertainment industry my whole career. I know the LA of families and homes and neighborhoods and churches and schools. So I have no idea who responded to this survey and what their experience was. I doubt that someone coming to visit here or someone who comes here on a business trip has much of an opportunity to interact with people in any kind of substantive way. So no, California is not an unfriendly, unintelligent state, and neither is the city of Los Angeles. Those are stereotypes based on limited experience, as all stereotypes are. So I just chalk it up to people having a lot of ignorance about who we really are here in LA, and I don't identify with that at all. I laugh at that when I see things of that type.
I think it's just very hard to get to know people here because most people are commuting, they're in their cars, and, they hang around the friends that they've had native, if they're native Californians, they hang around those folks. And it's harder, believe me, from a Chicagoan, I can tell you that.
Well, I can tell you, where we live, everybody's very friendly. And I have to tell you, I think there are many intelligent people.
There are, just not the ones that voted on Tuesday.
All right.
Depends on which voters you're talking about and what your view on it is.
I had to get it in there.
The Dancing with the Stars voters are not intelligent.
Gang, another night, another time on that. Cameron, Megan, thank you both very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.